Tonight on First at 9 this Tuesday the 19th of August 2025. Regulated gambling. Amended Gambling Regulatory Authority Bill passed in Parliament. Government denies allegations of money printing. Sweet destination. Government plans to develop tourist attractions at the Palwatha and Sevanagala sugar factories through public-private partnerships. Make Sri Lanka rich. Sri Lanka needs entrepreneurial leadership, stronger finance literacy to make Sri Lanka richer again, says legendary entrepreneur and author Robert Kiyosaki.
Watching Sri Lanka, your inflation was going crazy because your debt's going crazy. You don't want poor politicians because they steal.
Asian Paint Causeway Aquasafe මිලදී ගෙන LED TV run voucher ඇතුළු තවත් හැකි රසක් දිනා ගන්න.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Derana First at 9, Sri Lanka's most trusted news source. I'm Tatya Aronayaka, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. We begin with your top story. The Cabinet of Ministers gave the green light to implement a 5-year concessionary loan scheme aimed at creating 50,000 agricultural entrepreneurs, offering 5 million rupees per beneficiary at an annual interest rate of 4%. Meanwhile, the Cabinet also granted approval to develop selected areas of the Palwatha and Sevanagala sugar factories into tourist attractions under public-private partnerships. With that, let's take a look at more on these and other Cabinet decisions taken during the week.
The Cabinet approved the proposal to direct Ministry Secretaries and institutional heads to formally connect with the National Cyber Protection Operations Centre and obtain its services on a continuous basis. In light of escalating cyber threats targeting critical national information infrastructure, this initiative seeks to strengthen the resilience of public and financial institutions by ensuring uninterrupted access to expert monitoring, threat detection and incident response. Cabinet greenlit the proposal to implement a 5-year concessionary loan scheme aimed at developing 50,000 agricultural entrepreneurs and addressing the financial barriers that discourage investment in agriculture and industry. Recognizing the limited access to affordable financing, the 2025 budget allocates 500 million rupees to offer loans of up to 5 million rupees per beneficiary at a 4% annual interest rate, revitalizing the sector and fostering sustainable entrepreneurship. The Cabinet also approved financial assistance for housing for youth transitioning from institutional care to independent social life, particularly those entering marriage. To support young individuals who have aged out of child development centres, 1 billion rupees has been allocated under the 2025 budget, offering 1 million rupees per eligible beneficiary to help build stable and secure homes. The program targets youth over 18 years who have left institutional care within the past 10 years or continue to remain due to a lack of family support and will be implemented through relevant national and provincial agencies. Cabinet approved the development of selected areas within the Palwatha and Sevanagala sugar factories into tourist attractions under public-private partnership frameworks. Accordingly, 4 sites at Palwatha and 4 sites at Sevanagala have been identified as prime locations for ecotourism, agritourism, wellness and conservation-based tourism, aiming to boost tourism and sustainable development. Cabinet also approved the proposals to award 3 construction packages under Stage 1 of Part 3 of the Central Expressway project from Pothuhara to Galagedara to Maga Engineering Private Limited. Similarly, approval has also been granted to award the contract for reconstructing the Watuvakal Bridge on the Paranthan Karachi Mullative Highway to MSRR Construction Private Limited.
රුපියල් 8,900ක මාසික වාරිකයකට brand new TVS XL 100 යතුරු පැදියක් ගන්න.
Deputy Minister of Transport Dr. Prasanna Gunasena denies allegations of the government printing over 1 trillion rupees worth of banknotes. Speaking to the media, Deputy Minister Gunasena revealed that Sri Lanka's state revenue during the first 6 months of 2025 has increased by 24.7% compared to the corresponding period last year.
The government has enough funds. The country's economy is stable.
මුදල් අච්චු ගහලා කියලා. එහෙම එකක් තියෙනවද?
නෑ මුදල් අච්චු ගැසීමක් No money printing takes place as per requirements of the country's economy. This takes place on an annual basis. What we must consider are economic indicators. During the first 6 months of this year, we have breached the income and expenditure gap by over 33% compared to the corresponding periods of previous years. That means state revenue has increased. State revenue of the first 6 months of last year was 1.8 trillion rupees. The figure stands at 2.3 trillion rupees during the same period this year. State income has increased by 24.7%.
එතකොට මුදල් අච්චු ගහනකොට උද්දමනය වැඩි වෙන්නේ නැද්ද?
නෑ එහෙනම් උද්දමනය වැඩි වෙන්න බෑ. According to what you say, inflation should have increased by now. Prices of goods should have increased. However, they have not increased but have stabilized instead. Inflation has dropped. The Colombo Stock Exchange crossed 20,000 points for the first time in history. These figures can't be denied. We should compare overall figures, not individual values. Overall, the economy is stable.
The Gambling Regulatory Authority Bill was passed in Parliament today with amendments. Meanwhile, during his address in Parliament, Deputy Minister of Economic Development Dr. Anil Jayantha emphasised that the current government has not engaged in any form of money printing.
සූදු ක්‍රීඩා නියාමන අධිකාරිය පනත් කෙටුම් පත
The main objective of the Gambling Regulatory Authority Bill is to establish a body to regulate gambling. You may have noticed a rumor being spread in society, one that's meant to cause fear, suggesting that the government has printed a large quantity of banknotes and is driving the country towards another crisis. Whether this is being done deliberately or due to ignorance, I must clarify, in the current situation, the government cannot print money. Therefore, we have not done so. Legally, there is no room for that. If people begin to believe that money printing is impacting the economy's growth, it could cause immediate economic harm. This is why we are not engaging in such actions and instead we are continuing with the strict financial discipline.
මුදල් විනය ෆයිනෑන්ෂල් ඩිසිප්ලින් එක පවත්වාගෙන යනවා.
ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ දල විදේශ සංචිතය ගත්තම
When we look at gross reserves, they have dropped to $6.44 billion by the end of July 2025 within just 4 months. We have many payments due. This is not an easy situation. I ask you all, isn't this a red alert? We said the same thing during former President Gotabaya's time. That's why we are warning again. If this continues, the current situation could turn into a full-blown crisis by December this year.
කිව්වේ ඩිසැම්බර් වෙනකොට ඔයාලට මේක අර්බුදයක් බවට පරිවර්තනය වෙනවා.
දැන් මේ රතු වේලි පත්තු කර කර යනවා කට්ටිය.
Some people are spreading these so-called red alerts, warning that reserves have fallen to dangerous levels. But these are blatant lies. Last year, former President Ranil Wickremesinghe managed to protect the reserves by banning imports. But we have protected the reserves while keeping the market open, not by shutting it down.
සංචිත බේරලා නැහැ. මම අවධානයට යොමු කළොත් එimhe අද දවසේ පනත පිළිබඳව
If I focus on today's bill, the regulation of gambling was first introduced in 1988 during late President Premadasa's time. It was later strengthened by a bill introduced during former President Mahinda Rajapaksa's term. At that time, there was an opposition MP named Andra Kumara Disanayake who said that commission-based agents had entered position of power. In 2025, we now see Andra Disanayake himself becoming a commission-based agent. Still, we appreciate the implementation of this gambling regulatory bill.
පනත ක්‍රියාත්මක කරමින් මේ නියාමන අධිකාරිය ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීම අගය කරනවා.
හොඳම ෆෝන් එකක් ගන්න. ළඟම බාන්ස් එකට යන්න.
Postal unions vowed to continue their strike action despite discussions held at the Presidential Secretariat. The protesters assert that they will only call off the strike action if the subject minister provides a favourable response to their concerns. Addressing the matter during the cabinet briefing today, Cabinet spokesperson and Minister of Health and Mass Media, Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa, reiterated that the government has no intention of further increasing postal workers' overtime pay or abolishing the fingerprint system and urged employees unwilling to comply to consider alternative employment.
The protesting postal workers arrived at the Presidential Secretariat this morning to hand over a memorandum outlining their issues to the President. After arriving at the premises, 12 representatives were granted the opportunity to hold a discussion with relevant officials. However, following discussions, the protesters vowed to continue the strike action.
We didn't receive favourable solutions that warrant ending the strike. As a result, we will continue this strike further. We will end this strike action once we receive a favourable response from the subject minister.
Addressing the matter during the cabinet briefing today, cabinet spokesperson and Minister of Health and Mass Media, Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa, expressed the government's stance on the issue.
ඉල්ලීම් 19 ඇතුළේ තිබුණ ඉල්ලීම් 17ක්ම මේ වන විටත් එක්කෝ අපි විසඳලා එහෙම නැත්නම් විසඳමින් ඉන්නේ.
17 of the 19 demands raised by postal workers have either already been resolved or are currently under active consideration. Recruitment efforts are underway with candidate interviews in progress. They are well aware of that process. 250 million rupees from this year's budget have been allocated to expand the postal vehicle fleet, while simultaneous efforts are being made to modernize and digitize postal services across the country. An additional 700 million rupees have been allocated for post office renovations alongside the establishment of new branches. We are currently providing both financial and technological assistance to the department. However, 2 more demands are yet to be resolved. One of those issues is the issue concerning overtime compensation. The salaries of all state employees were increased from the 1st of April this year. From April this year, overtime compensation will be calculated based on the revised basic salary effective from 2027. In some cases, the Treasury won't be able to bear the overtime compensation of certain services. As a result, some of them would receive 5/6 of the overtime compensation due to them. This process will apply for postal workers. Accordingly, they will receive a much higher overtime compensation from April compared to what they received in March this year. Some claim that this is not sufficient, but this is a national policy and it cannot be changed. Thereby, it is useless to debate on this matter. On the other hand, there are issues concerning the use of fingerprint scanners to record employee arrival and departure times. Some refuse to follow this procedure. However, we will not allow that. This objection comes from a few employees of the Central Mail Exchange. The government has no intention of increasing overtime payments further or abolishing the fingerprint system. Employees unwilling to comply are advised to consider alternative employment. As a government, we remain firm in this regard. In some years, the department's revenue is not sufficient to provide both the salaries and overtime compensation. In such a context, it is unfair to act in this manner. We will hold discussions only if postal workers agree to work under these conditions.
The Colombo Crime Division informed court today that the shooting involving the vehicle of former National Lotteries Board Executive Director Thusita Harlolua was allegedly staged by Harlolua in collaboration with organised criminal groups. Following these revelations, Colombo Additional Magistrate Pasan Amarasena ordered that Harlolua be remanded until the 28th of August.
Former Executive Director of the National Lotteries Board, Thusita Harlolua, has been remanded until August 28th after being arrested by the Colombo Crime Division over suspicions of staging a shooting in Narahenpita on May 17th. Harlolua claimed 2 gunmen on a motorcycle opened fire on his vehicle and stole a sensitive file related to the president. However, investigations revealed inconsistencies in his statements. He earlier alleged that the president had deposited 40 million rupees in Greece, prompting a CID investigation. Court was told that Harlolua failed to cooperate with authorities, gave contradictory statements and attempted to mislead investigators by claiming his phone was damaged, despite data showing it was used after his hospitalization. He has also provided a different SIM card to the police. The CID told Colombo Additional Magistrate Pasan Amarasena that evidence suggests Harlolua fabricated the attack in coordination with organised criminals. He now faces charges under the Penal Code, Firearms Ordinance and Explosives Ordinance. The Additional Magistrate denied Harlolua's request for bail.
The Sri Lanka Electricity Amendment Bill has officially become law as the Sri Lanka Electricity Amendment Act No. 14 of 2025. Speaking to Parliament, Dr. Jagat Wickramaratne endorsed the bill after it passed in Parliament on August 6th by a 96th vote majority. The Act replaces the National Electricity Advisory Council with a new National Electricity Policy forming part of the broader National Energy Policy. It also renames the wholesale electricity market as the National Electricity Market, with key goals of ensuring a continuous, efficient and affordable power supply, cutting greenhouse gas emissions and expanding renewable energy. The bill, first presented earlier this year, faced Supreme Court challenges from groups including the Ceylon Electricity Board Engineers Union, but has now cleared all hurdles to become law. Global finance educator, entrepreneur and best-selling author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki made his first ever appearance in Sri Lanka. He addressed a packed audience in Colombo at Cash Flow Revolution Sri Lanka 2025, where his signature board game Cash Flow was also introduced to promote financial literacy among participants. Speaking here, Kiyosaki urged Sri Lankans to back entrepreneurial leadership, saying governments should be run by leaders who are wealth creators with the ability to make Sri Lanka richer again.
Best known as the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, the #1 personal finance book of all time, Robert Kiyosaki has challenged and changed the way tens of millions of people around the world think about money. He is an entrepreneur, educator, and investor who believes that each individual has the power to change their lives, take control of their financial future, and live the rich life one deserves. Since the publication of Rich Dad Poor Dad in 1997, this book has sold more than 40 million copies worldwide, translated to over 50 languages. Here in Sri Lanka on Sunday, Robert Kiyosaki was the headline speaker at Cash Flow Revolution Sri Lanka 2025.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise as we now welcome on stage Robert Kiyosaki!
But if I make a big noise in the speaker, I'll be a big thing. You got mud on your face, you big disgrace. Can you no?
But thank you very much. I want to bring up my, first of all, my doctor, Dr. Radhagopalan. This is one of my dear friends here. He's one of the reasons we're here in Sri Lanka, and he was always telling me about Sri Lanka. So I said, I'm probably not going to tour anymore. I'm finished. Too old. But I thought I'd bring Radha back to his hometown or his home country. But he's also a doctor of acupuncture. So he's East and West medicine.
I did medical school here. Now I am a heart transplant cardiologist at the University of Arizona, combining both acupuncture, yoga exercises, meditation, and Western medicine, all blended together, and try to bring them all together for the benefit of all humans.
Cash Flow Revolution Sri Lanka 2025 was a workshop organized by international education platform Success Resources alongside Wisdom Trainer International, led by leadership trainer Dr. Kumar Idamallena.
I said, okay, someday I want to get this man to Sri Lanka. He is the one. He knows how to make people rich. It happened and I'm so happy. You should be happy too. This is a rare occasion.
Co-founder and Group General Manager of Success Resources Veronica Tan, the platform that has worked with world-class speakers such as Robert Kiyosaki, also shared her thoughts.
Success don't wait for you. School don't teach us to be rich. With that mission of bringing education to ordinary people that school don't teach, today we have a choice to make that change, to invest in ourselves in education and learn from the people who have made it, the people who have done it.
Best of all, or worst of all, because of fake money, I was watching Sri Lanka. Your inflation was going crazy because your debt's going crazy. I believe in teaching people about money. I want to bring up Mr. Dilith here. Please come up forward here.
Sri Lankan entrepreneur and parliamentarian Dilith Jayavira too attended the event as a special guest of Robert Kiyosaki.
I rarely introduce political people, but I was so impressed meeting him because you can always tell a man or a woman by their work, and what he's doing here in media is incredible because I don't know if you know this, but media in America is corrupted right now. So impressed them. We're both entrepreneurs and rich men. You don't want poor politicians because they steal.
Robert, it made quite a lot of sense when you were writing in your book as to why we should not believe in money. So believe in assets, and money is fake. So I think that helped us a lot.
Robert Kiyosaki, meanwhile, presented his famous business board game to entrepreneur and MP Dilith Jayavira, who attended the event as a special guest.
Let me say it again, okay? Please vote for this man. And the reason is you want an entrepreneur to run government, like Trump is an entrepreneur. Trump is a rich man. Nancy Pelosi had to steal. That's the big difference. So please, we need entrepreneurs to run the government and teachers. Thank you. And vote for people who want to make Sri Lanka richer again. Thank you.
The cash flow board game, based on Robert Kiyosaki's bestseller and designed to teach players how to invest and build assets, was introduced to attendees during the workshop. Meanwhile, during an exclusive interview on at Hyde Park with Indivari Amuwatta, the legendary entrepreneur spoke about Sri Lanka's economic challenges and long-term prospects.
For a small island nation recovering from a debt crisis as Sri Lanka, is tourism a long-term wealth-generating strategy?
Because you're building first-class hotels. I see what you guys are doing. Unfortunately, most of that Chinese money. Just know that Sri Lanka is a rich, rich country. That's why people are coming. And yet your culture is so wholesome.
How do small states like Sri Lanka work to come out of this trap?
Well, because Sri Lanka is a rich country with poor education. So by changing your child's education or your education.
We went through a severe debt crisis. And if you were advising a small state, a small country like us on building long-term financial resilience, what would be your 3 key reforms?
I think the next country coming up is India. And what I know about the Indian people is they like silver. Silver is the next money, as well as Bitcoin. Yeah, there's a shortage of silver. So if you start saving silver today, you'll get richer and richer. You save this, you get poorer and poorer. So if the people of Sri Lanka can get away from this and go to gold, silver, or Bitcoin, they'll get richer and richer.
Now taking you to business news, Lanka Rating Agency Limited has appointed 2 new directors to its board to strengthen governance and economic impact. Indrajit Fernando, a veteran with over 4 decades of experience in business and accountancy, and Priyana Gunasekara, a seasoned financial management and risk advisory expert, joined the board. Priyana Gunasekara's appointment also marks a step toward greater gender diversity. They join current board members including Acting Chairman Niranjan Mendes, CEO Dr. Kenneth De Silva and Usman Haider, CEO of Pakistan Credit Rating Agency. Dr. De Silva emphasized that the strength of Sri Lanka's economy begins with the strength of its companies and said the new board's expertise will boost investor confidence and competitiveness. LRA thanked outgoing leaders Anil Amarasuriya and Nigel Bartholomew for their service. The United Kingdom announced liberalised trade rules that will give Sri Lanka's garment sector greater access to British markets from early 2026. Under the upgraded developing countries trading scheme, Sri Lankan manufacturers will be allowed to source 100% of garment inputs from anywhere in the world while still enjoying tariff-free entry to the UK. The reforms also remove previous processing restrictions, making it easier for more Sri Lankan apparel to qualify for zero tariffs. British High Commissioner Andrew Patrick said the changes would positively impact Sri Lanka's garment sector and help lower prices in the UK. Business leaders, including the Council for Business with Britain, welcomed the move as a major boost for Sri Lanka's exports. The UK says the changes underline its role as a progressive trade partner, simplifying rules of origin to help Sri Lanka compete globally. The Colombo stock market continued its upward trend from the previous session, fueled by heightened investor optimism following strongly quarterly earnings. Banking sector counters and selected diversified financial sector stocks played a key role in driving the index into positive territory. As a result, the ASPI closed at 20,571, marking a gain of 101 points. Notable contributors to the positive movement included commercial, H&B, Carson's and Sampath. On the back of increased participation from both retail and high net worth investors, turnover for the day amounted to 10.9 billion rupees, marking an 86% increase from the monthly average of around 5.8 billion. The banking sector dominated turnover, contributing 42%, followed by diversified financials and food, beverage and tobacco sectors with a combined contribution of 21%. Foreign investors remained net sellers with net outflow of 2.2 billion rupees. Now let's take a look at the day's foreign exchange rates. That's all for tonight from First at 9. Thank you. Have a great night.